use. So once that gets stuck on your record, it's very difficult to get it off. Also, they don't look into presumed 50-50 custody, either physically or financially. There's no court-appointed attorneys, so if you don't have the money to pay for an attorney, you're also going to be behind the 8 ball. They also want to implement annual training and programs for all the courts and all the judges that are already inundated without any funding for that. And like I said before, Cadence Law is a great start, but with all those points, we really have to address those to make a difference. So what we can do, and everybody in the state of Pennsylvania as well as throughout the country, is vote for term limits. There's a lot of politicians that have been in there 20 plus years that don't have, a clue of what's going on with the common man or woman on the streets, so we should impose term limits. Second, vote for a candidate that will work with his fellow constituents, that's going to listen to everybody, bring new ideas to the House and the Senate, and bring new ideas to the table. And also what we're doing here today, creating awareness for this issue as well as any other issues that are going to come up throughout the course of our society. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you all for coming out today to bring awareness to parental alienation. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for letting me speak. Take care. God bless. And back to Crystal.
Let's hear it for Nathan Truax, everyone. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for everyone everything that you're doing to help create awareness for parental alienation. At this time, we will be joined by our Northwestern region to hear their speaker.
Thank you, Crystal. My name is Jeremy. I'm from Northwest PA. Microsoft Justice, I'm the president. Today we have Lori Nicholson from Pennsylvania Parental Alienation Awareness Foundation. And she's going to give us a little speak. Thank you everybody for coming out. And here's Lori.
Thank you very much. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and months turn into years. At least 3.9 million children and 22 million adults in the United States are moderately to severely alienated. Our families suffer devastating effects of parental alienation. In 2005, I asked for a divorce. I never asked to divorce my children, but that's exactly what happens with parental alienation. As a stay-at-home mom, full-time, I lost one child per year in 2014, 15, and 16. In the 16 years of contentious litigation, hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent on 11 attorneys, needless and worthless evaluations, orders for therapy and counseling that were never enforced or upheld, a biased GAL who wrote a report without ever meeting me, and a therapist who thought he knew about reunification but had never seen such a severe case of alienation. It has now been 8, 7, and 6 years since I have seen, heard, hugged, or spoken to my children. Within those years, not a single Mother's Day card or birthday call, no holiday celebrations, funerals, births, and even your own wedding is done without your children. Graduations are watched from afar as an unwanted guest. Many milestones, such as their birthdays, driver's license, award ceremonies, proms, college visits, are all missed. Small moments are missed, such as field trips, preparing their favorite meals, sharing stories about their day, telling jokes, or just spending quality time together. Judge Joseph Walsh III of Erie County willfully and blatantly refused to follow the child custody laws, the custodial interference laws, and the Constitution. The child custody factors were ignored. I even had to push the court to follow the law regarding parties filing a criminal record and abuse verification form, as this had never been done prior in my case in all the 16 years. The shared physical and legal custody orders meant nothing. Erie Family Court allowed this alienation and child abuse to continue without any recourse on the alienator. In 2020, my co-parent relocated to another state. without any notice to me or to the courts. The Erie County Court never demanded the co-parent to return to the state of Pennsylvania or show up in person for any hearing. 2020 was the year I decided to go pro se, as I could not understand why no attorney could help me. In September of 20, I found out about an illegal stay I was never informed of this illegal stay by my former counsel. Had I not chosen to represent myself, I still would be unaware. However, during those 4 years, other litigation occurred within the custody case, illegally. I was dragged into court countless times during this stayed order, and it appeared that the stayed order only applied to me. Judge Walsh allowed my co-parent to illegally relocate to another state and legally kidnap my children. I tried everything to have the stay clarified, dismissed, lifted, and resolved with numerous filings, even a judicial notice. I was able to obtain Judge Walsh's 703 reports of the last 5 years, where he checked the box that no matters were awaiting decision of 90 days or greater. To this day, these filings have still gone unanswered and ignored. My children have since aged out, so this issue is now moot. I requested and paid for the transcript of the first part of the custody trial dated October 20. I was shocked to learn that on the phone and behind closed doors, Judge Walsh III suggested to my minor child more than once that I had mental health issues. I wondered why my child had stated this in a text message. Even the judge thinks you're crazy. Not only did this judge legislate from the bench, but he also attempted to diagnose me from the bench. He had absolutely no grounds to do this to me or my child. I have no history or documentation of this. The judge had no proof whatsoever. This only proved to me more that I was being discriminated against by this judge, just like many other women in Erie. In January 21, the opposing counsel filed a preliminary objection to strike all my pro se filings untrue. Her objection was in violation of PA Rule 1028. The judge had to dismiss her filing as moot. Then the same attorney tried to file a relocation of her client 6 months after the fact, which I filed an objection and a counter affidavit to. The judge dismissed her frivolous pleadings yet again, which was due to ex post facto. After a year of purposeful continuations, delays, and rescheduling, our last trial was in July of 21, ironically the day before my birthday. Judge Joseph Walsh III of Erie wrote an order that read, "The father is found in contempt without sanctions allowable by law." But he did mention that I was a loving parent. And then, that I could never be made whole. Had Judge Walsh followed the law, my children would be in my life today. Because I was a pro se litigant, I felt as if I was being discriminated against. When the targeted parent has other children, these children end up losing an important family member when the alienated child stops coming for visits and refuses any contact. In my case, my youngest daughter grew up with, lived with, and was extremely close to her 3 siblings. She suffered a tragic and traumatic loss of her 2 brothers and a sister. The court never considered her relationship or her loss. My youngest daughter has lost primary years and memories with her siblings. Years can never be replaced, and they are forever lost. In every custody case, contempt issues should be addressed immediately, not 6 months down the road, as this delay only further alienates the child. But the delays of justice leave a targeted parent to feel helpless. All control and power over what's happening in their lives or in their children's lives is lost, as the alienator seems to control everything. We as targeted parents face the stigma of being branded bad parents on top of having our children torn our life. Targeted parents are ambiguous children, no matter what anyone has said. I always wanted you in my life. No matter what, I will be here fighting for you and waiting for you. And no matter what goes on, you will always be in my heart and on my mind. I will never forget you. I am here waiting with open arms. I miss being your mother. I miss you. And I love you unconditionally.
Thank you, Lori. Now we're going to go to North Central PA. their speaker.
Hi everyone, welcome to North Central's portion of the Parental Alienation Ride. I'm Kurt, the president for North Central, and I'd like to introduce our speaker. Thank you. Thank you. First thing I'd like to say, I'd like to thank all the Pennsylvania bikers in Pennsylvania, Augustus, Bikers of PA. They've done a wonderful job together around Pennsylvania. People that actually know what parental alienation is, which it is child abuse. And I will be talking about the severe abuse that is being done to pro se litigants in the anti-family. I am a pro se litigant. I live it. And whenever you're a pro se litigant, you deal with many stresses in the anti-family court system. You have to deal with lies and frustration of and judges discriminating against you. You could show 100% of the proof and they just completely ignore it. That's whenever you know you are a targeted pro se parent. And, you know, to become one, usually you go through many attorneys. I had none. I didn't have no other choice but to be a pro se litigant. I had to learn the law like never before. I should have never had to do this. Whenever I was a pro se litigant, I want you to take a look at this. I took pictures. I don't know if you can see this. I'll bring it up. Okay, that's just 2.5 years of filing in the anti-family court system. That's what you call paper terrorism, okay? It's paper terrorism in the anti-family court system. And whenever I was in there, I brought some other pictures just there with me. I have totes. I had totes of paper, okay? I had enough paper probably if they killed the Amazon, okay, for me to fight these people. They're just lying pieces of garbage, okay? That's what I'm going to tell you what the anti-family court system is. I had to fight my ass off in order to beat these people, okay? I had to learn the law, like I said. I had to do everything the right way, everything. I had to be better than they denied me probably 100 times. It never stopped me because they parentally alienated my daughter for 3.5 years. I had to fight with everything I had to get my rights back. I had to fix everything the attorneys did in my case. My case started in 2013. You know, believe it, to this day, the president judge has never seen me in court. Not one time. I've asked numerous times to see this. He could have resolved it. They don't want to follow the law. They hate the law. They hate pro se litigants. If these judges and attorneys would start following the damn law, parental alienation in the United States wouldn't even exist. But they don't. That's the problem with this country. They don't follow the damn law. I am a very passionate pro se litigant. And I'll tell you I'll give you a little story on the bullshit that I had to do in the anti-family court. Whenever I first became a pro se for the 3rd time, I was being discriminated against. I'll tell you what I had to do. I tried to file a motion to enter my appearance. My attorney was on. I had to wait until he got off, okay? I couldn't. I tried everything to get this attorney off. Well, my hearing was coming up within a couple of days. So anyway, I went out to the clerk. No, the judge won't allow you to represent yourself and file your plea. I said, okay. I went back for the 3rd time. It was the day before the hearing. Now I'm prepared. I read the law. And whenever that clerk came up to me and said, Mr. Schilling, the judge ain't going to allow you to represent yourself and allow you to file pleadings, I used the law. I was going to have the judge arrested and prosecuted for what he was doing to me. I was very nice, and there was a sheriff right behind me, ready to arrest me at the time. And I looked at the clerk very nice. I used my head. I was very calm. And I said, can you please tell the Honorable President, Judge, give him a message? And then she goes, oh, okay. She was real smart to me. Because, they look down on pro se litigants. Whenever I looked at her, and I said, well, can you tell the Honorable President Judge that according to Chapter 18, Title 53, 5301, Official Oppression, that if the Honorable President Judge doesn't allow me to represent myself and to file my pleadings, I will call 911 and I will have a nice police officer come and file any and all documentation I need in my entire case. Can you please give the Honorable President Judge this message? I give you 1/2 hour, and if he's not here, I guarantee he will be here, and I will be filing my filings with a police officer. I went outside, and they called me in 10 minutes. Mr. Schilling, you can come in and file anything you want. You've got to understand the rules and the laws in your state in order to do, to go forward. The day after I did get set up, but I had to do it, I am one of the few pro se litigants in the country that did fight back, and I'm letting you know you can do this too, but you've got to really want it. Is your child worth it? Is your life worth it? Because that's what they're going to take for you if you don't do something about it and fight back, okay? I had to. There's millions of us across this great country that's experiencing the same kind of judicial terrorism in the anti-family court system. It's up to you to decide you had enough. Enough is enough of the parental alienation, of the discrimination of the pro se litigants in this country. You're going to stand up and fight. You're going to do things the right way. I know it's tough. I went through it. I just gave you a whole pile of fools. But I'm going to give you a bright side because I never gave up fighting. I have over 20 quarters around that was granted, including a default judgment against me. Yes, I'm saying that. A default judgment against me. That's almost next to impossible. I got 50 attorneys on the case. I challenged subject matter jurisdiction, and I beat them in federal court. In fact, even one time, I even had the federal judge, I told him I wanted a divorce from the attorney, and they always laughed about it. This is the kind of thing that a pro se litigant, on how they get discriminated against in this great nation that we have, that's happening in our anti-family court system. This is what happens. People don't realize it until they're into it. And the people that don't understand about the parental alienation, let me give you a little hint. Imagine if you've never done anything wrong, okay? Now all of a sudden you're in court. Now all of a sudden you become a monster, and you don't get to see your kid again, or you're put in supervised visits. How would you like that? Well, guess what? Why do you think we're all out here today? Because we're parents and we're getting tired of this shit in the court system. There's so many good Americans that are being treated unfairly, and I've had enough of this crap. I am one of the few pro se litigants that did fight back, and I'm letting parents know they can do the same thing. But I'm telling you again, you have to follow the law, you have to follow their rules, you have to play in their ballpark, and there's no getting around it. Don't get discouraged if you don't get something granted. You use it as a learning experience. You don't get mad, you don't hate people, you use your head. And this is Tim Schelling. I just wanted to give a little message out there for these great group of individuals around Pennsylvania that allowed me to come out and speak. And I hope something gets done about the parental alienation, because enough is enough. Parents need their children, plain and simple. Thank you for your time, and God bless everybody.
All right, thank you, Tim, for speaking for us, and now we're going to turn it over to Southeastern. I get fired up.
From the Southeastern Region Parental Alienation Awareness Ride, coming to you from the Northtown Courthouse. We're so happy to have you all joining us today. My name is Kayla. I'm the Southeastern Director of Pennsylvania Bikers for Justice. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Chris Bowen.
Doing today at the project. Guys, again, I thought you were bikers. What the hell? I write myself down because I'm a much better writer than I am a public speaker, so please bear with me if it sounds a little bit robotic. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Chris Bowen. I'm not going to speak to the intricacies of the family court system or what laws we should pass. Politicians will champion our cause. I'm not for you. Scared of a government that simply does not. What I am going to do is say some things going to piss you off. And kids, I'm going to use some bad words, so cover your ears. The people in this building here, they don't like you. And in fact, they see you as human garbage, the crime of not being a member of their club. To them, you are accused, guilty, proven innocent. You just don't want to pay child support. Your narrative, well, you can't even cipher, let alone navigate your way out of false allegations of abuse in the kangaroo court that offers zero due process or constitutional protections. You are the dog shit on their shoes. But I don't see any deadbeats here today. I see blindingly strong stepmoms, the moms by proxy,
ferociously protecting their cubs. I see raging grannies and grandpas putting on ass-stuffing boots and willing to get a third mortgage on the house to defend their families from a system that seeks to destroy the bonds they have built. I see sassy aunties, crazy uncles, brothers, even if not bound by blood. And yes, I see my warrior dads, still standing strong, their truth, even as their voices shake while the weight of 1,000 lies and injustices fall upon their hearts. All of the knowledge that our watching, that it is our responsibility, our duty to drag the injustice these bastards perpetrate out into the light and show the world just what kind of destruction they profit. I've been there. Stopped myself from running my car into a tree on my way home after I got my third falsely filed PFA. The nights where I was not able to wash out my 6-year-old daughter's milk cup that she left in the sink because washing it would punctuate the fact that I would not see her for another 2 weeks. The pleadings to court officials, child family services, law enforcement, and the psychiatric community who would all smile and nod politely, but would not help simply because I'm a parent who happens to be bad. Yeah, I've been to that level of help. On my own journey of nearly 10 years, I found the antidote to that despair, the sword with which fight the peace that is our family. Viktor Frankl, a famous psychiatrist who survived the Nazi death camps, made this revelation in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He noticed that you could take everything from a human being, their clothes, their homes, their families, even their lives. But the one thing that could never be taken from a human being is how they will react to a given atrocity. In the space between stimulus and reaction lies our salvation and ultimately our victory. Perhaps it's appropriate that today is also a Greek Easter. And being that I phrase Greek Orthodox comes, it's kind of mandatory that I work some wisdom into my speech today. And no, that wisdom has nothing to do with Windex. I'm reminded of the true story of the Zakynthos, a small island in Greece that was under the occupation of the German army during World War II. You see, back then, religious leaders at the time often held more sway over the local population than elected officials did. And as such, the bishop was commanded by the SS officer residing over the occupation to provide a list of all the Jewish people residing on the island. The next day, the commandant and provided him with a list with only one name, his own. And proceeded to tell the commandant he was prepared to march with his Jewish neighbors and friends right into the gas chambers if that was his destiny. To this day, Zakynthos remains the only Greek province that saw 0 casualties among its Jewish population. This needs to be the measure of it all. We need to be willing to put our lives on the line so that our grandchildren will never have to live with the pain we and our children have suffered under the heel of the family court system. We Greeks, along with being submissive and having invented everything, also have a concept that we teach from the moment they're old enough to understand. That concept is philatimo. Philatimo, literally translated, means a love of honor. But it means so much more than that. It means a sense of community and family that is valued above all else. It means shoveling the old lady next door to cry even when she didn't ask. It means sitting with a new kid at school and everyone else ignores him on his first day. It means fighting with your last breath for what you know is right against insurmountable odds in the face of certain death. But I like best what my yaya told me about Philatimo when I was a young boy. She slipped me $1 for chewing gum manis. Philatimo, she said in her thick accent, is doing the right thing, not because someone will see you, Christomo. Philatimo is doing the right thing because it would be shameful to not do it. With those words, 40 years later, still guide and strength. So this is my gift to you on this Greek Easter and Parental Alienation Awareness Day. For me and my grandmother, Nicoleta Kostopoulos, who came to this country in 1916 to do the right thing. Be kind, love each other, and fight like hell for what you know is right. The destructive forces of our And if we will just get out from behind our keyboards, create an actual battle plan, band together and fight. As Winston Churchill once said, and I promise this will be my last Greek reference, forevermore to be known that Greeks do not fight like heroes, but that heroes fight like Greeks. I will fight with you. I'm coming. No, not yet. The only thing you have to do is ask, and together we'll show these bastards the meaning. Last, most importantly, our children will learn from our actions how a true warrior parent fights with love, with grace, with honor, with love, and with a light that not even the parasites who work in this building can extinguish. Thank you.
And now joining the South.
Hello from South Central Pennsylvania region, and welcome to our Parental Alienation Ride in beautiful downtown Carlisle. We're so happy to have you all join us. My name is Pete Fremont. I'm a state officer, Chief of Operations for Pennsylvania Bikers for Justice. And at this time, I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Suzanne Spencer Abel.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Spencer Abel, and welcome to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I'm an advocate for parental alienation awareness because as a child, I was alienated from my dad. He passed 30 years ago before I heard about alienation. I'm also alienated from 3 of my adult children and all of my 8 grandchildren. Today I'll be talking about adults who experienced alienation as children. In 2001, now retired Minnesota Judge Michael Haas wrote the following to his family court litigants. No matter what you think of the other party, or what your family thinks of the other party, these children are one half of each of you. Remember that, because every time you tell your child what an idiot his father is, or what a fool her mother is, or how bad the absent parent is, or what a terrible thing that person has done, you are telling your child that half of him or her is bad. Judge Haas didn't use the term parental alienation, but that was the behavior he was addressing. So what happens to those children once they become adults? Well, I had planned to focus on my experience for this talk, but on March 30th, 2022, less than 3 weeks ago, the University of Tasmania in Australia published the results of a study conducted by distinguished alienation scholar Dr. Mandy Louise Matheson and 2 grad students. The study is entitled, I won't read it, but it addresses what happens to alienated adults as children. For those of you interested in reading the study, see me afterwards or contact me afterwards for the website. I got 6 insights from this study. Number 1, the study found that all of the participants reported that their mental health had been hurt by alienation. Let me repeat that. 100% of participants reported mental health consequences for the alienating behaviors they'd experienced as children, including but not limited to depression and anxiety, self-harm, eating disorders, complex PTSD, and suicidal thoughts. They got me at 100%. Number 2, the new study also found that 95% of participants experienced emotional pain from the alienation. They identified several powerful emotions, including shame and guilt, loneliness and isolation, helplessness, anger, abandonment, and grief and loss. So 95%. The odds don't look good for escaping alienation unscathed. The guilt is overwhelming. I feel guilty for the dreadful things my mom said and did to my dad. I feel guilty for saying and doing the same things to him to get her love and approval. I feel guilty that my dad and I didn't have a relationship. Number 3, The study further notes that the powerful emotions participants most frequently describe are feelings of grief and loss, of feeling invalidated, invisible, and unrecognized by greater society. Research on losses experienced by alienated children reveal that they suffer a gradual cascade of losses, beginning with the loss of their individual self, to the loss of their childhood and innocence, the loss of a good enough parent, and the loss of that extended family, including grandparents and step-siblings, and finally the loss of community, like school and church and friends. And we heard that loss both in sadness and in anger from the previous speakers today. It is profound. These losses lead to disenfranchised grief, specifically about the time lost with the targeted parent. Disenfranchised grief is grief that is not recognized as legitimate by society. Grief that is disenfranchised is still grief. The confusion experienced by adults alienated in childhood may be related to the ambiguous losses they experience. Ambiguous loss is a loss that occurs without significant likelihood of reaching emotional closure or a clear understanding. Disenfranchised grief and the ambiguous loss make final resolution to the trauma nearly impossible. Number 4, the study next noted, sadly, that participants who saw therapists unfamiliar with alienation dynamics felt invalidated and more confused than before they started therapy. Therapy for alienation is a specialty requiring advanced study and training. Number 5, the study then observed that 50% of the participants were parents who were alienated from their children. Why is this pattern repeating? Speaking for myself, I grew up believing my family was normal because my mom said it was. As an adult, I found people with the same behaviors I was used to. To me, it looked normal. It felt normal. Too late, I learned it was not normal or healthy. And number 6, the final significant takeaway from the study is positive, that knowledge is power. The authors believe that older participants have had more time to reflect more deeply on their experiences. They also observe that some participants learned about alienation by educating themselves through reading books, taking courses, and engaging in online support. These participants wanted to make meaning of their experience and wanted to overcome their childhood adversity, developing a greater understanding and acceptance of the experience. The authors seem to be saying that time and education can enable understanding and acceptance of our alienation reality. Understanding and acceptance can sprout a sense of calm and peace, and I think that's something all of us want. Now we're a step closer to achieving it. Knowledge is power. Thank you all for listening. On to the next speaker.
So much for taking the time to come speak for us today. And thank you for everything that you are doing to help create awareness for parental alienation. Now we will be joining the Southwestern PA region, and we thank you for watching.
Hi, my name is Don Johnson, also known as Cowboy. I'm the Vice President of the Southwest Pennsylvania Bikers for Justice region. Our speaker today is a sheriff instructor who can give you some insight on some of the results of parental alienation. Glad to have you all here. I'm sorry, her name is Elizabeth Davidson.
All right. All right, my name is Elizabeth Davidson, and I'm with the Washington County Sheriff's Department. So the last 2 years I've spent as a DARE instructor, so I teach drug prevention in schools. But before that, the majority of my career was spent as a family court deputy. And sheriffs are, unfortunately, the silent observers in every case, whether it be criminal or civil. We're always there in the court cases, in the courthouse. I also work as a police officer, so we're responding to a lot of these domestic disturbances and family abuse. So over my years of doing that, I have seen, unfortunately, a lot of family issues. So one of my very favorite quotes, which I'd like to mention today, I use it often when I teach, it was by Barbara Bush. She said your success as a family, as our nation, depends not what happens in the White House, but depends on what happens inside your home. And I love this quote because I have observed it to be true, absolutely true. A lot of a child's success in society, in school, in life depends on what happens in their house. A mother and a father are usually the most important person in that child's life. And I say usually because families definitely do look different. But usually it's mom and dad, and they also play a great role in child development. Okay, so parents are the first contacts that a child has with society and the world at large. And parents teach and model behaviors that children often mimic. Parents are to provide love and support, and fathers and mothers are equally important in a child's life. I know this just from my own family life, my own experience as a child, but also from observing it daily in the schools, okay, and in court and everywhere else. So today we're speaking about parent alienation of children. This syndrome was created from an array of factors. So marital conflict, custodial matters, and lengthy court cases exasperate and trigger a variety of problems in children. This we all know and have heard about all morning from the varied speakers. So when parents divorce and separate, a child is stuck in the middle. In my years of observing court cases, I've observed parents dragging their kids into the drama of court cases. One parent talking ill of the other parent to the child, discussing all the problems and faults of their marriage, telling the children that one parent is taking them away from the other parent. Unfortunately, and quite impossibly, children feel like they must pick a side. And like I said, sheriffs are the silent observers in all of this. Children should not have to feel like they should choose between one parent or the other. In those situations, we must remember to put our children first, regardless of our own personal issues towards each other. Children should know, well, should not know the details of court cases. They should definitely not know any of the details in great detail. That's an adult matter that should never be discussed with children. Children need to be reminded they are loved and their parents' marriages dissolving is not their fault. Parents need to remember to work together in the best interest of their children, and if they disagree, come up with a creative solution for their children. To not include their children in the drama of custody and divorce cases. In my years of court cases, I find that it doesn't seem malicious, which in other words, these people are good people. Their intent isn't to harm their child, but that they get caught up in the drama of their case. They lose focus of their children and gain focus on damaging each other. We must remember what our jobs are as parents. We are to provide love and security, model good behavior. We must remember, however hard it is to do our jobs, that we must do our jobs, and our children depend on it. If we don't, unfortunately, everything that I just discussed is what happens to the children that get involved in those cases. I appreciate you guys letting me speak. This is an amazing event. I'm so glad that people are bringing awareness to this. Like I said, in my 15 years of being a sheriff and a silent observer in the courts, I've seen years of cases, the same situations happening over and over and over. Parents withholding one child from the other, speaking ill of, all the terrible things that one parent might have had, a checkered past, telling that to children. Children are unable to process that. They're not capable of processing that. And unfortunately, in every situation, these children feel torn, divided, that they must choose between mother and dad. And I truly, truly believe, and my own children are here present today, absolutely 100%, kids need both parents. They need mom and dad. We have to figure out a way to make that happen. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll turn it back over.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. We appreciate your input. Our next speaker that we're going to have virtually is Dr. Petra Dieter. She is a well-known professional in the field of parental alienation. She founded an institute called the Victims to Heroes. So everybody could please listen. She has a lot of insight for us also.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I am an adult child of parental alienation, and because of my experience, I think like Larry or Suzanne talked about, it actually translates into my experience as an adult, as a mother, that I was also alienated as a mother. So luckily, I was able to fight my case and won my children back and rebuild the relationship with my children. But what happened to me today, I wanted to share with you the perspective of the child. So as a child, my mother convinced me that my father was bad, that he didn't want anything to do with me, he abandoned me. And that I bought into that narrative, and then I grew up and refused to have a relationship with him, even though he tried so hard to reach out to me. I did everything to reject him, and by the time that I realized that this is alienation, that this is not true, that he's not bad, that he loved me, that he wanted me, it was too late. He already passed. So this translated into, it's really impacted every aspect of my life, growing up without a relationship with my father. It's really, I mean, the kind of things that Suzanne just talked about in terms of the study from University of Tasmania, it's really everything that you could imagine. It impacted my self-identity, my self-esteem, translate into ending up in psycho-abusive relationship, you know, my perspective in life and how I approach work life, and it's not just my personal experience. There's a research from University of Colorado State University that showed that overnight 3.9 million children in America alone, and this is not an American problem, obviously, it's a worldwide problem. 3.9 million children are affected by parental alienation. And there's 3 times the number of children affected by parental alienation than the children with autism. And yet, the world is ignoring this problem. I am actually one of the researchers that working with Dr. Mandy Matheson at University of Tasmania, like the study that Suzanne is talking about. And with my research, I interview over 300 adult children of parental alienation like me. And the kind of experience that they are going through is the same as what I'm going through, and the same as even for people that refuse to recognize that parental alienation is real. If you're looking at other field of study, for example, research in trauma, developmental study, you know, adverse childhood experience study, that is like massive study out there, many field study, they all translate into the same thing. The impact of parental alienation on the alienated children is not just psychologically but also physically. It translates into mental health issue but also physical health. And the problem that with the family court, which I don't need to tell you because I know that you experience all type of problem with the family court, but one of the key thing is that the court doesn't recognize that by not doing anything, it's not the same as not doing harm. What they are doing is they're ignoring that the children is bleeding. We are bleeding badly. It's just like when you go into an ER, when a patient is bleeding, you don't wait for the x-ray, you don't wait for the MRI result, you don't wait for the diagnosis while you stop the bleeding. You have to immediately attend to the bleeding to the children. That's a problem, is that we are forgetting to pay attention on the children. So the priorities really have to put the children first, and just like Sheriff Elizabeth just talked about, really it's so important. Now, from the perspective of the children, I wanted to tell you, I mean, earlier, Laurie, the alienated mother, mentioned, you know, she said, I didn't ask to divorce my children. I want to tell you that as children, we didn't ask to divorce you either. We were forced to. And so, even though I rejected my father, and just like all other children that were alienated, I was always secretly longed for him. I wanted him, even though out there, I repeated the narrative that my mother forced onto me. I said I refused to have the relationship with him. I said he was bad, but really deep inside, I longed for him and I wanted him and I looked up to him. So I wanted you to know this. Your children love you. So don't give up on your children. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you so much.
All right, let's have a big hand for Petra Dieter, Dr. Petra Dieter. And make sure you check her out on Facebook at Victims to Hero. She is a very strong voice for victims of parental alienation. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mark Roseman.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. Today it signifies an international event, and that is Parental Alienation Awareness Day. The formal day was the 25th, but the weekend, the 24th and 25th, is so significant. And what you all are doing in 5 or 6 different locations in Pennsylvania are really setting a very novel and important opportunity to connect viscerally, if I would say, to discuss these subjects from all around the state of Pennsylvania, and really to serve as an example for what others can do in their own states. It's really a time of celebration and acknowledgement, quite honestly. Carlisle, Pennsylvania, I was thinking, is one of 350, the site of 350 schools that took Native American children away from their parents to brainwash them, to train them, to remove their history, their culture, and to convert them, if you would, into a more white Anglo-American society. So it's fitting to be in that you also have a location in Carlisle today. Friends, I'm delighted to speak today to introduce for some and validate for others that so many families who experience high conflict custody and children's abuse by brainwashing is real. And these impassioned and very detailed and very humbling presentations you have heard all together give you a growing understanding that is so multi-layered in the impact, the affect, and the challenges in dealing with parental alienation. So I want to summarize some things. I'm going to give some context to others and provide some tools for you at least to refer to. Carl Menninger said in the 1940s, Dr. Carl Menninger said, what children see at home, they will do to society. And that is a message we've all been hearing, particularly from Dr. Petra Dieter just now. But we have to realize that with all the problems that exist, the systems are difficult to change, but they can be changed. And so with respect to that, I want to quote State Representative Lucy McBath of Georgia, who lost her son 10 years ago to gun violence. And she said, change doesn't come as quickly as we ever want it to happen. Because understand, this is a culture that we're having to change. I've been in this field since 1997 when I started my divorce. My life changed from a father to a targeted parent, from a husband to a single divorced dad. I'm also a grandfather, never met my grandchildren. I have no relationship with my children. And from a hardworking insurance agent 20 years ago to a bleak black period of fighting for access to my children without identity. However, subsequently, I earned my PhD in family studies and high conflict divorce, became a specialist in child custody, and have worked in legislatures and the judiciary with the Children's Rights Council out of Washington since 1999 very actively. That journey helped me learn more of how we can take our anger and begin to modify that or transfer that energy into that of understanding how the system works, reaching out to the gatekeepers within that system and helping educate them. And it was my mentor, David Levy, who said, you know, there are 3 things that are necessary in helping facilitate change. That's information, education, and support. I want you to think about that: information, education, and support. Of course, that's why we're all here today. You know, I understand that. Well, we ask, where are others? And how can we reach others? Well, in 2010, I moved to Florida, which legislatively acknowledged shared parenting. It was here in Florida that I established the Toby Center for Family Transitions to offer supportive, supervised visitation, therapeutic, child reunification, and parent education, all services to help parents endure high conflict, or what Judge Philip Marcus from Jerusalem reminds me, and that is, it's not high conflict divorce, it's high conflict personalities. I founded the Toby Center to help others in respects and ways that I could not have when I went through my own tragic journey. Realize that parents today, and you've heard from Tim Schilling, who I so admired for his courage and his tenacity and his clarity. But remember that all those of you or those you know, parents who have or are without counsel, when they split, there's no emotional support in the courthouse, only accusations and court orders on how they shall proceed to parent. Oftentimes there are temporary restraining orders issued, domestic violence allegations, and requests for forensic evaluations, and there's always fear. Always fear. The unknown. Unfamiliarity with the process, fearing what worse or what more can another ex or another attorney do to us. Though many divorces are amicable, I'm reminded by an earlier speaker, my Greek brother, I'm 3.5% Greek, who said that over 80% of cases of divorce with children find some degrees of alienation. And there's truth to that. Some divorces seem to be more amicable or more accepting of the changes in the lives that they have now experienced. But it was Karen Huffer, researcher in PTSD, and particularly with legal abuse syndrome, to understand and convey how the courts as set up are so damaging to nearly everyone. You know, when we experience divorce, we are forced into a vacuum, if you can conceive that. A vacuum, a mystery of unknowing. It's an expansive vacuum, of litigation and psychological evaluations, cookie cutter approaches, although Lori Nicholson said how she was betrayed by the court, and most of us are betrayed by the court for many different reasons. But how we're limited to access to our children, how there are guardian ad litem's appointed, there are attorneys for the minor children that are hired, and there are hearing postponements. All this leads us into uncertainty and fear and disbelief and anger and hostility. The current family court process is not geared to maximally, if I would say, help a parent thrust into the legal system. In fact, I frequently call family court the Roman Colosseum, the survival of the fittest. and that who has the most money to burn. But we have these questions we're asking during this process as litigants, as pro se parents, as parents wanting access to our children. You know, we ask, why me? How can I protect my child from the abuse of their brainwashing? What can I tell my children? Well, parents who become more content when they have answers to these questions becomes the journey for us now. To find that contentment, that acceptance, so that we can move forward. And what are the outcomes that we're searching for? Well, we want to demand, number one, that the court orders be enforced. We want to demand that there's accountability that is truly in the best interest of the child. And we want parents to be guided into the best practices for co-parenting. And I would argue, as a mediator, that mediation be the first line of pursuit in child custody and visitation decision making. Easier said than done in 30% of the cases. I know this. As an experienced family court mediator, I'll say that many parents and even the courts will look to the mediating parenting agreement as a mechanical roadmap for scheduling child visitations and arranging for child transfers. But in many agreements, I found that many parents don't really understand the emotional upheavals and the often traumatic whirl of change for the child. And where are the grandparents? Where's the extended family? I believe it was Petra who referred us to understanding that children, and it was the sheriff who also eloquently stated that the home for the child is where they live, and that is true. And it's the nature of the parents who can impact the development and the acceptance and the relationships and the outcomes, the best outcomes for children. I would remind all professionals there today, you're an attorney, you're a legislator, you're a therapist, you're an educator, guidance counselor, you have any relationship to the courts, that all court orders, all court orders will impact a family for up to 6 generations. That's what the research tells us. That's 150 years. All court orders. They can be good, they can be bad, they can be ugly. You know, all of us bring our own personal history into the process within the courts. And if you're a family professional, a guardian ad litem, a case manager, a therapist, you know, recognize that in order for families to move forward, there needs to be an acknowledgement of what is at the present. The hell that has been unleashed due to the decisions, or decision at least by one of the parents, to separate. And to help these parents adjust to that process, to all those procedures in a way that at least can be more, less conflicting. And when that can be accomplished, it'll be easier on the child as well as all parties. Where it was Chris Matthews who said at a fundraiser in Washington that I attended, he stood at the top of the stairs. This was at the British Embassy, and he said, you know, I don't know an unhappy child that comes from a happy home. And for the most part, that is true. The Carl Manager said, what children see at home, they will do to society. Friends, I want to conclude now. I don't really want to conclude now, but I know there's time constraints for all of us. But I want to share with you some resources that I think will be most important. One of the first books I read, and again, it was my Greek bro who said, referenced Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Please, friends, if you've not read any book yet, read that. It'll give you a context for yourself and how to deal with trauma, how to be more accepting and acknowledging of what it is, and how to move forward in changing that dynamic. But if you're an attorney, you must read Parental Alienation, Science and Law by Lorandos and Burnett. That cites more than 1,300 cases at the appellate level, all citing parental alienation. If they tell you parental alienation has not been found in the courtroom, refer them to this study and that book. It's truly, truly helpful. The PASG, Parental Alienation Study Group, visit pasg.info and you'll find research in the archives. You can join at no charge, and you can find out who in your state are active in the field and around the country. Family Access by Elaine Cobb has a monthly program with many of the best speakers. Dietra has spoken, Dr. Stephen Miller, William Burnett, Amy Baker, people whose names you might know. It's free, and it's an international global call. Read a new magazine. I found it a year ago. I'm publishing Contemporary Family Magazine. These are global resources for effective co-parenting. Contains research, interviews, discussion, and events internationally. As was said earlier, parental alienation is not unique to this country. Sadly, it's international. But there's a lot of efforts being done by advocates as you and me and others around the world in making changes, and there are changes being made in other countries. So today, you have an opportunity to meet other people, connect with them, develop a support group, because it's with support groups that you will be able to find more of your own strength in order to move forward. And lastly, a short quote. And this is from Mr. Ilya Samolenko from the Azov Regiment office. He's one of the Ukrainian Marines held up in the steel plant in Mariupol. And I saw him speaking earlier this week, very, very somber and clear-eyed. But importantly, he said this: find your strength. Find your strength. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish you well. Pray that next year will be so much better. There's more rejoicing. And thank you for letting me share this platform with all of you. Blessings and only good things in your lives now and longer.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Roseman. Give a big hand for Dr. Roseman. I do want you all to give a big hand to yourselves for helping to create a better future. This is the first time that anything like this has been done, unifying an entire state with different locations to create awareness of parental alienation. We are very proud to be a part of it. We are very thankful for all those who joined us. We're all very thankful for all of you who have joined us to this event. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now today was creating awareness of parental alienation. A very, very important mission. The second part is doing something about it. The way to do something about parental alienation is make it known to your legislators. They are the biggest obstacles right now. This is why this continues, is because the legislators have not fixed this problem. They've seen the problematic laws within the family courts, and they've just ignored it. They feel like they have more important things to do. For decades, they've known about this problem and failed to ignore it. They've been provided stories about children being abused, beaten, neglected, and even killed, and they still don't do anything. We need to let them know enough. It's time to do something about parental alienation now. You need to contact your state senators, your state representatives, and tell them that we want them to make parental alienation a priority on their list. We want this session something done to end the tragedies of parental alienation. If they don't do anything, the next thing you do, get them out of office. Do not vote for these people who are allowing this to continue. Would you take your car to the same mechanic for one issue over and over and over again, paying him each time when he never fixed the original problem? Of course not. You'd want a refund and you take it to someone else. That's what we need to tell these legislators. It's time to move on to someone else who's going to fix this problem. Stop these career politicians that are doing nothing. Earlier, we had Nathan Turok here, who stressed the importance of term limits as a way to solve these types of problems, and he's 100% right. These problems exist because of career politicians listening to the special interest groups instead of you. So this election, if you don't have a candidate who is going to make this a problem, vanish, do something to fix it, don't vote for him. If there's not a candidate on the ballot, you have a line underneath there. Write someone in. Do not check a box for a candidate who's not going to do something about parental alienation. Write someone in. Write in, your pastor, a teacher. Write someone who you believe is going to make the efforts to stop parental alienation a priority. I thank you all very much again for being a part of this event, and look forward to seeing what we can do to continue this battle against parental alienation. Going to turn it over to all the other regions now to do their closing. Everyone, God bless.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? I'm Jake Cohen, Northern Region President of Pennsylvania Bikers for Justice. Thank you for all attending. The victim of parental alienation really appreciate you showing them support. I would like to close this important topic with a positive thoughts. Today and every day, make sure you love each other, be kind to each other, appreciate one another, and always say, I love you. And when your child sees that, he's gonna feel the love. And he's gonna be safe, and they're gonna feel safe. At this time, I would like to invite everybody to join for lunch at Tarly's and Turok Summit. If you are coming, please line up for the ride. Again, thank you so much for coming. One last time, let's hear it for all of us. And we're also going to take a picture with everyone before we go. Thank you.
All right, everybody move forward. We're going to take a group picture. Right in front of the steps, I guess, is a good spot. And then after that, we're going to mount up and get ready for a ride to Tully's.
Hard to see the screen, huh? Wait for everyone to kind of hold.
Got everybody.
Say that again. We gotta go that way.
Hi, Nathan Turok. I'm running for Pennsylvania State Senate in the 20th District. I'm here today with my friends from PA Bikers for Justice to discuss parental alienation. I'd like to just thank them all for coming out today, and we are here today to bring awareness to parental alienation and how we can fix the laws to help our future children and to help the future of the state as well as the country. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. If there's any questions that anybody has, please look up Nathan Turok on Facebook, and I answer each and every question personally. Take care.